Hi, good morning. Welcome to real-time manual testing interview questions part 4. Almost 40% of questions will be covered during manual testing. Now, in this session, mainly I'm going to focus on test cases related portion, what type of interview questions we are going to get. So, what is test case? Test case, which describes the validation procedure of a specific requirement in application. That means how to test particular functionality in application will be described by the test case. Suppose I have the login functionality, how to test it is. Registration functionality is there, how to test it is. Maybe reset button is there, how to test it is. Like that, every functionality or requirement, how to test the application described by the test case. So how we are going to specify these things? So test case consist set of steps or sequence of steps with user actions and a subsequent response from the system. It consists set of steps or sequence of steps with user actions and a subsequent response from the system. What are the components in test case template? What are the components in test case template? So generally, what is test case template? In general, every organization will maintain their own template to derive test cases. In general, every organization will maintain their own template to derive test cases. What is the meaning of template? Which have some predefined components. Which have some predefined components. Why these templates are going to maintain means to get the consistency among them, all the test engineers were writing the test cases. Different testing in different format they're written, it makes complex to understand from the client point of view or other testers point of view. So to get the uniform among the test engineers, so they go for this kind of templates are going to maintain. But as a test engineer, you should aware of the three kind of templates: test plan template, test case template, defect template. Similar way, you should aware of the three life cycles as a test engineer: software development life cycle, software testing life cycle, then a bug life cycle. Differences point of view. So retesting, regression testing, smoke test, sanity test, verification, validation, static testing, dynamic testing. Okay. So the questions you should know it is system testing and functionality testing difference. So this type of questions, mandatory questions to ask. Okay. Now, coming to template here, template is which are some predefined components. What are the components are there? In the test case template, project. So we have to give the name of the project. Model, which model related test cases you are writing, created by, there is a test engineer name, date created on, reviewed on, referred documents, test case ID or name, test case description, priority, one of the important component, priority, step name, step description, test data, expected result, actual result, and status. These are the various components are going to find. In general, actual result and status we are going to use at the time of test cases execution time. So remaining components we are going to write. What is positive and negative test cases? Positive and negative test cases. Based on validation and functionality, there can be two types of test cases. Based on validation and functionality, there can be two types of test cases. First one, positive test cases. How we can define that? Test cases with primary flow or positive flow of events. Test cases with primary flow or positive flow of events. Primary flow means how client want to do the transaction, the application to complete successfully. So such a way you derive the test cases with expectation as successful transaction. So those type of test cases we are going to call positive test cases. Test cases with primary flow or positive flow of events. Example, test case with valid inputs. It is an example only. Test case, this is not the definition. Okay. Test case with primary flow or positive flow of events. That is positive test cases. Example, test case with valid inputs. Second one, negative test cases. Test cases with alternative flow or negative flow of events. Test cases with alternative flow or negative flow of events. Example, test case with invalid inputs. Test case with invalid inputs. What are the different types of test cases? So generally, as a test engineer, when we are going to write the test cases, so we go for the three types of test cases. First one, user interface test cases. User interface. So already we discussed about user interface testing earlier also in part 2 interview questions. These test cases are derived to verify look and feel of the application. Second one, usability test cases. These test cases are derived to verify user friendliness or ease of use of the application. So this is considered usability test cases. Third one, functionality test cases. These test cases are derived to verify application functional behavior based on user operations. User operations. Other three types of test cases. But remember that whenever you are going to derive the test cases for any application in the real time, so these three factors to cover, we have to write the test cases. But again, when you go for the function related, two things you have to cover: positive test cases, negative test cases. But user interface usable, there is no negative test cases. For functionalities, we can go for the positive and negative test cases. With the primary flow of events, alternative flow of events also we have to test. Suppose login functionality using valid data we have to test. That is the positive. Login function with invalid data also we have to test. That is the functionality positive negative test case also important. Next, what is test harness? Test harness and test bed. Generally, this harness related to the automation testing. So in software testing, a test harness or automated test framework is a collection of software and test data configured to the test a program unit by running it under varying conditions and monitoring its behavior and outputs. So it has two main parts, the test execution engine and the test script repository. The test harness we are going to call. It's nothing but automated test framework. It's a collection of software and test data, which is configured to the program. Okay, so that is what test harness we are going to call. So which are two parts: test execution engine and test script repository. Repository means where we can store some data. So resource files we are going to maintain. As a repositories we are going to call. Test bed or environment. Environment we set up for testing process is called test environment or test bed. So, so it can be have the hardware environment, software environment, network, and this combination where we can call test bed. For testing purpose, required software and hardware configuration should be provided. Okay. About your test environment, you are going to find in the test plan document what type of configuration system we have to use, which version of browsers we have to. That information will be given in the test bed or test environment. How will you derive priority for a test case? Explain advantage of priority. Another important question. Priority for a test case we can provide are derived based on importance of the functionality or criticality of the functionality with respect to client business needs. Which functionality validation purpose we are writing test case, that functionality how much important with respect to client business needs. Based on that, we derive the priority for our test case. Okay. What are the advantages we have? Why we have to give the priority? So based on priority, we can select test cases for execution. We have to execute all the test cases. No, why we have to set the priority based test cases only when we don't have sufficient time to execute your all the test cases. In that case, priority is going to be one of the important one. Based on this parameter, we can select the test cases when there is no time to execute all the test cases. Because sometimes there may be delay in the deployment of the build. Developers in time not given to you. That is the one case. That is the advantage, right? Next one. How many test cases you prepared for your project? The general question is going to ask how many test cases you prepared for your project. So I prepared around 252, so 300 test cases. Like that, you have to say it is. How many test cases will you write in a day? So it is, there's no fixed number for this because some test cases may have only one step, some test case may have the 15 steps, and some test cases we have to prepare the data also. So based on that, we can say that the 40 to 50 test cases per day you can prepare. It all depends on the project and requirements, but in average we can write 40 to 50 test cases per day. It means we are taking around 10 minutes to prepare one test case because to review and analyze the requirement and to update it in test case template. So for this, it will 10 to 15 minutes of time, one test case it takes. So how will you know that written test cases are sufficient to validate your project? Or what is requirements traceability matrix? One of the famous question true point of time. Requirements traceability matrix. The document used to map the test cases to the requirements in order to identify all the requirements are covered or not with written test cases. What are the components are there in this requirement traceability matrix? Which is requirement ID, test scenarios, test case ID or name, test case description. This kind of components are there. So question mark, how will you know? How will you know? So that written test cases are, how will you know that written test cases are sufficient to validate your project? With help of the requirements traceability matrix. What is requirement traceability matrix? Means the document used to map the each test case to the requirement in order to identify all the requirements are covered or not with written test cases. Okay. These are the different components we have. There are 2000 test cases, but we don't have sufficient time to execute that many test cases. Then explain what is your approach in that scenario. Earlier we discussed priority. Based on priority, we can select the test cases for execution. Initially, we execute all the high priority test cases. Then we execute other level priority test cases based on availability of time. Explain difference between severity and priority. Remember that severity is not there for the test case. So when they ask the severity and priority, both related to the defect. Okay. The severity for a defect is given based on seriousness of the defect, and priority is given based on importance of the functionality in which we identify defect. The severity of a defect is given based on seriousness of the defect, and priority is given based on importance of the functionality in which we identify defect. Understand? Severity means whatever defect you identified, how much impact the defect is taking your execution activities. Based on that, we have to give the severity. How much impact the defect is taking your execution, the impact of the seriousness of the defect. How many test cases are not able to continue execution? That is seriousness means. Okay, priority means so how much important that functionality with respect to client business needs. Based on we give the priority. These defect parameters will help to know which defects need to be fixed first. But there may be a question asked that who will give the severity, who will give the priority. So severity given by the testing units, priority will be given by the developers. So priority will be given by the developers, severity will be given by the testing units. Somewhere that question also I may covered. This is a question I given. Who will provide severity and priority for a defect? In general, testers will provide severity for a defect, where developers will give priority for a defect during triage review or triage meeting on defect. Triage review or triage meeting means once you send the defects to the developers, developers will conduct the review in order to confirm whether defects which you reported those are valid or not, and which defects they need to resolve first based on the client point of view, business point of view. They give the priority. How often do you interact with the business analyst? Different scenarios we are going to interact with the business analyst. So one scenario here, requirements are not clear. Requirements are not clear. You are not able to understand. To get the clarity on the requirements, you are going to interact with the business analyst. Same way, some requirements you are going to read, okay, but you may identify some mistakes in the requirements. But as a tester, you are not responsible, but based on your experience. So you thought there was some mistake in your requirement. To correct that one also, you can talk to your business analyst. Give your input to the business analyst. I thought this one is like this, but maybe it is mistake is there. Is it okay or not? We are going to ask with the business analyst. If I want him to add any defects or backlog list. We are going to interact with the business backlog in agile method backlog. We are going to call. If something is too difficult to deliver within the time frame, so like these are the scenarios we're going to interact with the business analyst. When requirements are not clear, so some to do the correction in the requirements or to add any defects or it is difficult to deliver within the specified time. So then we are going to discuss with the business analyst. Is a test engineer, you can able to discuss with your business analyst. How many test cases can be executed manually per day? How many test cases can be executed manually per day? So it depends on the project because some test cases may have the one step, some test cases may have the more than 15 hours. Depends on the so size of the test case also. But 50 to 60 test cases per day we can execute. 40 to 50 test case also we can execute. Suppose you written the test case means it won't take much time to execute. So whatever test cases you written, you have written the test cases. So you will be knowing functional knowledge of the application. So we can execute 50 to 60 test cases per day. So someone written test cases are given to you. If you have not written the test cases, for example, client has given test case. Sometimes client also will given test cases to which are already written by the previous company. So the test case will be forward to you. In this situation, we can execute 40 to 50 test cases per day. Don't say any fixed number here because we don't know some test cases may have the more number of steps. Okay, that makes more time. Explain status reporting in your company. Testing has to report status to test lead, but sometimes may also report to project. Generally, there is a way how we are going to status report. You are going to test engineers. What type of status reports are going to do? Sim testing has to report status to test lead, but sometimes may also report to project manager. Depend on resource availability in the project, the team may report to so test lead or project manager. Generally, our reporting manager means test lead we are going to call. What type of status we are going to report? Daily execution report, daily status report we are going to call. Every day before going to leave the office, we have to go for the daily status report. So defect summary report, so test execution report, retesting report. This type of reports are going to intimate to the test lead. How to share or send a file which have the 50 MB. So if the file size is more, then we cannot send it through mail. We have two options. So we are going to maintain the so by right click on it, share file. By right click on it and click on the properties, then select sharing option. We can go for like this. Or in the organization, we will have the common repository. Copy the file and paste in the common repository so anyone can access it. The two possibilities. Explain project execution flow. Project execution flow nothing but a development process. Business proposals. That's the requirements collection generally we are going to say, but actually the company level as an experienced person when I say the first business proposals, the requirements analyzed, planned, then design, coding, testing, deployment or release and maintenance. This way. What is software release note? What is SRN we are going to call? Software release note. Software release note. Whenever we are going to get the build from development to team, this kind of document, software release note and deployment document, two kind of documents are going to get. Software release note, SRN, and a deployment document, DD. What is this SRN is going to describe? It describes about build release details. Build release details such as build version number, build location where it is deployed, modules changed, installation steps, known issues, bug fixes. This kind of information given by the software release note. What is deployment document? DD. What is deployment document? Deployment document also given while giving the build for us. It describes how to install, deploy the application before testing, and what type of test environment setup required. That information given by the deployment document. Okay. Thank you. Subscribe my channel Madhukar QIT for further so interview questions. If require training, you can text me this WhatsApp number. Thank you.